thank you for doing this. The first question I have is it Aldis or Aldis? Everyone says it totally differently.
Yeah, they sure do. And I've sort of got to a point where I'm just sort of happy with either one, but Aldis is the correct pronunciation. Yeah.
That's the correct pronunciation. And this is your second time in Poland?
Yeah. I think the first show was I want to say in October. Obviously, it's a brand new market, so it's a sort of interesting dynamic. It's always fun to come to new countries where wrestling has a sort of almost has it's like a renewed, like a virgin audience, and so sort of it's interesting to see what works and what doesn't and what they're responding to. And obviously there are a lot of cultural factors, just a lot of fun, but to come and be part of the I guess the sort of introduction of the genre, outside of WWE to Poland, and it's a cool feeling, and obviously to be the headliner is obviously a good deal of responsibility, but the production values that these guys have are really outstanding. So that makes it a little easier to get on the plane and fly halfway around the world and be away from your kids, because it's like, okay, at least it might be something worthwhile, and yes, I'm looking forward to tomorrow night for sure.
Well, you said the last time you were there that the best part about Poland was there was no Dave LaGreca heads in the crowd. Do you still feel that way?
That's true. Well, yeah, I mean, look, I get it. I mean, the one thing, people here aren't that familiar with wrestling, but even these people hate Dave LaGreca, and they're like, there's a real anger towards Violetta for marrying someone of such low quality. It's really become a national issue here, from what I understand. I think even having a LaGreca head at this point is some sort of crime in Poland.
That is the word here in New York, but I have to do further research. But something you were just talking about, your willingness to go to new territories, emerging markets of wrestling. Of course, you did that with Ring Ka King, which pros and cons to that one. But you've had this wonderful career that shows no signs of slowing down, where you've been willing to go to new places, try new territories, lead the charge. How much of that is organic versus you going, I'm going to do new stuff?
It's mostly organic, honestly. It's not. I can't say that I'm sort of going out of my way to look for places. I'm afraid I don't have the time to try to encourage people who aren't already investing in wrestling to try to do it. I leave that to the sort of network of people that exist in our business who like to do that kind of thing. But yes, I sometimes they look around and they decide who to reach out to when these new sort of projects pop up, and sometimes it's me, and that's I take that as a huge compliment. Like I've been talking to a group out in Dubai, whether we'll see whether that comes through or not, but again, just it's exciting to be able to see the world by putting on some tights and doing what I do. So it's it's been fun, and I had a great time last time I was here in Poland. I'm a little tired right now, but when we hopefully get a little nap in and maybe go get a little workout in, and then I'll be able to sort of appreciate it and enjoy myself tonight after the press conference.
Makes sense to me. Well, another compliment that goes to you, besides you're trying new things, is you're one of the few almost universally liked people in wrestling. So
that's news to me.
Well, how many people are able to, be beloved in the old school facets? The old timers like them. NWA, Conan likes you. I mean, Conan doesn't like anybody. Disco likes you. Vince Russo likes you.
I have, yeah. I mean, I will say, I guess you put it like that. I suppose you're right. I do seem to have been able to have united the opinions of people who for the most part, are sort of diametrically opposed on every level. But yeah, I look. You're forcing me to brag here, but I guess that just comes down to me. I feel like wrestling is horribly over-engineered for the most part, and I feel like when people are always trying to sort of reverse engineer where has it gone wrong, or why is it not as popular as it once was, or why is it not? Some of that's just nostalgia, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody feels like the era that they watched when they were 10 years old is the greatest era ever, and nothing will ever touch it, and no one comes close. Everybody feels that way, and it's the same with music and TV shows and everything else. But I think the other part of it is that after we pulled the curtain back so far, it's like now there's this, it's almost like I think a lot of people in wrestling put this pressure on themselves now to come up with something that's never been done, and that will be the selling point. And I personally I don't think that people need to see something that's never been done. I think people just need to see something done well. Like one of my favorite business quotes I've ever heard was from Kenneth Cole, and
Okay.
somebody asked him as a fashion designer, as a fashion mogul, your job is to kind of tell people what they want. And he goes, no, my job is not to tell people what they want. My job is to give people what they want in a way they weren't expecting. And that's pretty much exactly how I feel about wrestling. Like, people kind of want the same thing. Like, they just want it, served up slightly differently to keep them on their toes. But if they've made the decision to follow the genre, they've made the decision that they're okay with certain elements of it. So they don't want that to be tinkered with. And I think that when people try to tinker with it too much, that's when it starts to get divisive, and that's when you start losing fans. So what I've pretty much done most of my career is kind of gone, here's the stuff that I'm pretty sure like never goes out of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, there's a lot of stuff you see in wrestling that's sort of fashionable, like there's certain moves or certain sort of sequences or certain even promos, certain styles.
Everyone has a Canadian destroyer at this point in time.
Canadian destroyers and spinny elbow, or spinny back kick, and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, but it's kind of like the fashion, it's the same as fashion and style.
Mm-hmm.
Fashion comes and goes, but style is timeless. So I think if anything, maybe the reason I've been able to unite, historically sort of contrasting opinions is perhaps because I tend to spend a great deal of time on the proven stuff that works, and try to really hone my craft on that, storytelling, physicality, drama, emotion, and less on faddy sort of, fashion stuff that comes and goes.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you about is your wife's a great singer. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her a few times. Your boss at NWA is a hell of a songwriter. Is music a big part of your life, or is it just a coincidence that you're around all these music adjacent wrestling people? Because Jeff Jarrett, also a huge music guy, and some of the early backers of TNA were music people.
Yeah, I love music, and I have a very eclectic music taste, and I was exposed to a lot of different music growing up, but I have no musical talent whatsoever. I can hear it and I can enjoy it, and I can, if I have enough drinks, I can even karaoke it. But I don't have. But I'm just not one of those people that has that ability to harness it into, to me, the ability to write songs or write music, to come up with a tune that hasn't already been come up with. That's an incredible skill to me. Like that's a skill that I don't possess even the first, if somebody said to me, hey, okay, gun to your head, you've got to come up with a song. I mean, that would be a nightmare for me, because it's just something that my brain doesn't, create in that respect. So I'm a lover of music and an appreciator of it, but it's probably also why I get along well with people who are musically inclined, because I offer no opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I mean, other than obviously my own taste, I can say, oh, I like that song. I remember I had a conversation with Billy, and we've known each other for like 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we never even talked about his music. And then one day I said, oh, that's my favorite song of yours. And he's like, oh, really? Yeah. And he said, yeah, we've never really talked about it. And I was like, yeah, and that's the one, and he asked me why, and I explained to him why. And you could see that it was interesting to him, because he liked to hear from a sort of layman's perspective. But I think, I stay in my lane, right? I don't know anything about music, because I don't offer anything on it. And for the most part, with wrestling, with Billy, it's like he never says to me, oh, you should do a match like this, you should do a promo like this. He obviously we discuss like bigger plans, bigger ideas, but he never tells me how to do my own work. So that's part of our sort of mutual respect, I think.
That's a unique concept, where you have this fear where you could never come up with an original musical thought, yet put you in a ring and you could improvise for 25 minutes and come up with possibly something that hasn't been done before. So everyone has their own art specialty.
Yeah. Well, and look, and that I've put my 10,000 hours in, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the truth of it. Is it's that it's yes it is improvising, but it's also pulling from 15 years of grafting. So it's that's a very good way to put it. And I have been called on to do that from time to time.
Paltrocast.